Have you ever stumbled upon a secret world, hidden, like right in plain sight?
Maybe not literally stumbled, but you hear stories.
Right. Well, today we're going to explore just that possibility, sparked by, your curiosity about a classic tale. We'll be venturing into the first bits of wonder and the budding conflicts in C.S. Lewis's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Narnia.
Yeah,
Even just hearing the title brings back memories.
exactly. So you might already know the basics. 4 siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, sent away during the war to live with this old professor.
In that big rambling house full of interesting things.
Perfect setting for an adventure, right? And our mission today is really to unpack their very first steps into Narnia, how they reacted, those differences, and the early hints of magic and trouble.
And we'll even touch on Mindful Moments, that AI audiobook analysis channel.
Yeah, just briefly mention how it sometimes offers deeper insights into stories like this as we go.
Okay, sounds good. So it all starts with Lucy, the youngest.
Always the curious one.
Right. She opens this old wardrobe, pushing past the coats, expecting the back panel.
But instead, she finds trees and snow.
Exactly. What hits you about that first moment, that discovery?
For me, it's just the sheer what factor,
Yeah.
1 second, mothballs and fur coats, the next, crunching snow, and then that lone lamppost.
The lamppost, standing there in the middle of a snowy wood.
It's such a strange, almost dreamlike image, the ordinary smashing right into the extraordinary, and then pretty quickly she meets Mr. Tumnus, a faun.
Carrying parcels under one arm, an umbrella under the other. He's quite surprised to see her too, isn't he? A daughter of Eve in Narnia.
He confirms the place is called Narnia and then paints a pretty grim picture.
Yeah, this land's stuck in an endless winter, thanks to the White Witch.
Yeah.
He seems, well, quite sad about it all. Even a bit embarrassed he doesn't know where Spare and Wardrobe are on a map.
Yeah. But despite the cold and gloom, he invites Lucy back to his cave for tea.
And it's such a cozy scene, isn't it? What stands out for you there?
Oh, definitely the food.
Yeah.
You listed it perfectly earlier, egg, sardines on toast, buttered toast, honey toast, sugar-topped cake. It's just this explosion of warmth and, unexpected comfort in this frozen world.
It really makes Narnia feel welcoming, at least in that little cave, despite the witch's rule.
Totally. But then the mood shifts, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Mr. Tumnus gets upset, plays his flute, and eventually breaks down. He confesses his job for the White Witch.
He's supposed to hand over any humans he finds, any sons of Adam or daughters of Eve, and Lucy's the first.
What does that tell you about Narnia right at the start?
Well, it immediately throws in this layer of danger and moral conflict. Tumnus is nice, kind even, but he's trapped in this awful system.
It shows the witch's influences everywhere, forcing people into these tough spots.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder about others.
Yeah, definitely. But Tumnus, he can't go through with it.
His conscience wins out. Even though he could be turned to stone, he decides to help Lucy get back. He warns her about the spies, the trees maybe being listeners.
It adds this real sense of urgency and danger to her escape. And then getting back through the wardrobe is just as weird.
Because hours pass for her in Narnia.
But back at the professor's house, it's like no time passed at all. Her siblings are right there, just as she left them.
How do you think that time difference affects everything that happens next?
Oh, it makes it impossible for them to believe her, right? Peter and Susan, they're older, more logical. Their reality didn't change, so her story sounds completely made up.
It puts Lucy in a really tough spot. She's had this incredible, maybe slightly scary, but amazing experience.
And nobody believes her. She's isolated. It's pretty heartbreaking, actually.
And then there's Edmund. His reaction is different.
Yeah, different as in awful. He just starts teasing her really spitefully about her imaginary country.
What's driving that, do you think? Just being mean?
Could be jealousy, or maybe he just likes winding people up. It feels particularly cruel because Lucy's being so genuine. He's not just doubting her, he's actively mocking her.
And it creates this early crack between the siblings.
Definitely. But ironically, his nastiness is what leads him into Narnia.
Right. He follows Lucy into the wardrobe later, not out of curiosity, but basically to keep teasing her.
And surprise, surprise, he finds himself in the snow, too.
His first thoughts are interesting, though. He doesn't immediately think, wow, Lucy was right.
No. He thinks she's hiding, maybe angry, and he sort of plans this really fake apology.
Mm-hmm.
It shows how self-centered he is at this point.
But then his attention gets completely diverted. He hears bells.
The arrival of the queen, the White Witch herself on her sledge, pulled by white reindeer with gilded horns. It's quite an entrance.
Very grand, very cold. What's your take on that first meeting between Edmund and the witch?
The visuals are amazing. The pure white, the gold, the stern queen and her dwarf driver. But it's the Turkish delight that's the real hook, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just candy. Lewis makes it clear it's enchanted, addictive.
What's the significance of that specific temptation, do you think?
Well, it's tailored perfectly for someone like Edmund, isn't it? Someone maybe feeling a bit overlooked, resentful. She offers him this intense pleasure, something just for him.
And it works instantly. It clouds his judgment. The way Lewis describes it, wanting more and more, really hammers home how manipulative it is.
And while he's eating, she's subtly pumping him for information. She seems particularly interested that there are 4 of them.
2 sons of Adam, 2 daughters of Eve. Why is that specific number so important to her, you reckon?
It definitely suggests there's more going on, maybe a prophecy. Something about 4 humans arriving that threatens her power. It raises the stakes immediately.
She senses danger, perhaps?
Could be. And she plays right into Edmund's ego, promising to make him a prince, give him a crown, and, crucially, more Turkish delight if he brings his siblings to her castle.
It's pure manipulation, appealing to his vanity, his greed, his addiction now. Even as he leaves, he asks for more.
He's already caught. So when he bumps into Lucy on his way back out of the wardrobe, their conversation is awkward.
Yeah, he admits it's magic, that the wardrobe is a way in, so Lucy feels vindicated for a second. But he totally downplays her experience, doesn't he?
He does. He's like, oh yeah, it's sort of magic, I guess. But doesn't validate anything about Tumnus or the queen. He knows Lucy was right, but he's already leaning towards the witch.
That internal conflict is starting. So later, Lucy tries again with Peter and Susan, thinking Edmund will back her up this time.
And he does, initially sort of reluctantly confirming it.
But then when Peter presses him, he does a complete U-turn. He says they were just pretending, playing a game, a total betrayal.
How does that hit Lucy, do you think? After thinking she finally had proof.
Oh, it must be crushing. Absolutely devastating. Her own brother, who knows she's telling the truth, publicly denies it and makes her look foolish, even dishonest.
It really deepens her isolation and underlines how damaging Edmund's actions are becoming. The trust is just shattered.
So Peter and Susan are now really worried. Lucy's incredibly upset. Edmund's being weird. They decide they need to talk to the professor.
And his reaction is not what you'd expect from a stuffy old professor, is it?
Not at all. Instead of just saying, don't be silly, he approaches it super logically. He lays out the options. Is Lucy lying? Is she mad? Or is she telling the truth?
And based on her character, she's not known for lying. She doesn't seem mad, he concludes. Well, logically, she's probably telling the truth.
It's such a fantastic moment. Adult reason actually siding with the child's unbelievable story.
And then he drops that amazing question about whether other worlds couldn't just exist, round the corner.
It completely reframes it, doesn't it? From impossible fantasy to just another possibility the children haven't considered. It opens the door.
He suggests they just mind their own business for a bit, which kind of lets the whole thing settle. And, for deeper dives into themes like belief and truth and stories, places like Mindful Moments and our podcasts, that AI analysis channel, can offer some interesting perspectives.
Good point. But the Narnia break doesn't last long, does it? Their next trip is pure accident.
Right. Some sightseers turn up unexpectedly at the house. Mrs. McCready is giving a tour.
And the kids need to hide quickly. Where's the first place they think of?
The wardrobe room. And they all pile into the wardrobe itself to avoid being seen.
Peter goes in first, then Susan, then Edmund, and finally Lucy. And they keep backing up.
Until they're not feeling coats anymore.
They're feeling branches and cold air. They've all tumbled into Narnia together, into Lucy's wood.
And now Peter and Susan can't deny it. They see the snow, the trees.
Peter's first reaction is actually pretty decent. He immediately apologizes to Lucy, sincerely. Says he's sorry for not believing her.
It's a really important moment, kind of mending that specific rift.
Yeah, but the peace doesn't last long.
Yeah.
Edmund makes a stupid comment, something like, we should bear left if we're heading for the lamppost.
Giving away that he's been there before.
Exactly. And Peter is furious, calls him a poisonous little beast. The tension ramps right back up.
But Lucy, bless her, is focused on something else.
Mr. Tumnus. She remembers his kindness, the tea, and crucially, the danger he was in for helping her. She insists they have to go visit him.
It really shows her loyalty, doesn't it? And her bravery, wanting to help despite the potential danger.
Totally. But when they finally reach his cave...
It's a mess. Door broken down, furniture smashed, a notice nailed up saying he's been arrested for treason. High treason against the queen.
It's a really sobering moment. The first real, tangible consequence of the White Witch's power that they all witness together. It makes the danger feel very real.
And it immediately raises the stakes for them being there. They aren't just visitors anymore.
So thinking back on just these first few chapters, these initial stops into Narnia, what are the big takeaways for you?
Well, you've got that stark contrast, haven't you? Lucy's pure wonder and belief versus Edmund's immediate temptation and deceit.
Yeah, the power of simply believing what you experience, like Lucy does, versus letting doubt or selfish desires cloud your judgment.
And the professor's logic offers a third way, almost the possibility of belief grounded in reason, which is interesting. We also see trust being built and broken very quickly.
And the very real presence of good and evil, right from the start. Tumnus's kindness versus the witch's cold manipulation and power.
Definitely. These early scenes perfectly set up everything that follows Lucy's steadfastness, Edmund's journey towards, well, wherever he's heading, and the fact that all four are now involved, whether they meant to be or not.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden worlds, maybe not literal ones, but worlds of possibility, exist just beyond what we normally see?
Like maybe in stories we tend to dismiss too quickly, or beliefs we overlook.
Exactly. Could having the courage to believe in something that seems impossible actually be the key to finding something extraordinary? It's a thought to hold on to.
A good place to pause. So definitely subscribe if you want to explore more stories like this with us.
Yeah, and share this with anyone who loves a bit of magic or a good story. You can find a link to buy the book in the show notes if you want to read or reread the whole adventure.
And as always, keep thinking critically about the narratives we encounter and the worlds they might just open up for us.